Hi everyone, I'm Alona Reed. Welcome to my show. Today our little stressful talk is going to be about Alzheimer's disease. I've had to deal with this several different times, so I'm pretty well informed about it. To start out with, I'm going to give you a little bit of a background about Alzheimer's. I always had a problem because I didn't understand the difference between Alzheimer's and dementia. So I had to do a little bit of research, and maybe you had the same problem that I did. Dementia is the disease itself. It's the umbrella. Under the umbrella of dementia, you'll find Alzheimer's disease, you'll find Parkinson's disease, you will find Huntington's disease, you will find mad cow disease. So a better way to help you understand it, let's use cancer as an example. Someone says, okay, I have cancer. The first question you'll ask, well, what kind? Okay, so you have cancer as the umbrella. Under the umbrella, you have breast cancer, you have lung cancer, colon cancer, prostate cancer, and it goes on and on and on. So that's what dementia is. It's the overall disease, but under it, there are specific diseases. Now, Alzheimer's disease affects 60 to 80% of all people who suffer from dementia. Normally, it attacks people 65 years of age or older, but there are statistics that show that 200,000 Americans that suffer from Alzheimer's disease are under 65 years of age. Now, I'm going to tell you a little bit about my story. My grandmother had dementia, and she was the first person in the family where we remembered that someone had the disease. She lived to be 93 years old, and she suffered from the disease for 15 years. But my mother took her in and took care of her, and we never had to put her into a nursing home. The thing about Alzheimer's disease is that it is fatal. There is no cure for Alzheimer's disease. Although people don't die directly from just having Alzheimer's disease, they die as a result of the disease. They'll normally have several mini strokes, they might have a heart attack, or they might just end up with pneumonia. So that's the problem with the disease. You have to be very careful. Some people have it longer than others. Some people only have it a short time. My mother is the oldest of 3 girls. Her middle sister had dementia as well. She lived to be 81 years old. Now with her, she had a lot of problems with hallucinations, and it got to the point where she had to be placed into a nursing home, and for the most part, she didn't recognize too many people at all. I don't think a lot of times she even knew who she was. My mother's baby sister lived way out in Los Angeles. She lived alone. She was 84 years old when she passed away last year. She was very, very active. She did a lot of different things, you know, and she just had a good life. But then she started falling a lot. She broke her back, she broke her leg, and she got to the point where she just became angry about everything, about everybody, you know, nothing ever seemed to be right. And it just got worse and worse and worse. By her living alone and falling all the time, people didn't know where to look for her. She had one of those life alert bracelets, but she refused to wear it. You know, she said, well, I have it, but it's in my purse. Well, that doesn't exactly work. I can remember one time she called my mother. She had fallen, and she called my mother in Missouri and told my mother to call me in Michigan, and she wanted me to call Life Alert. So I had worked really late that night, and I got this call from my mom, and she said, you know, my sister's on the floor. I don't know if she's dead or alive. You need to call Life Alert. I said, well, it doesn't work like that. I said, but I'll do what I can. I said, where's her bracelet? Oh, she doesn't know, it's in her purse. So I had to stop, look up the zip code, the area code for Los Angeles, and then try to call 911, and they were asking me all these questions, whether or not she lived in a gated community. I didn't have a clue, but if she had just had on her bracelet, she could have hit the button and she would have had help immediately. And I told my mom, I said, you know, that just didn't make any sense. You know, you went all around the country before we could get her help. I say that to say that I had bought my mother a life alert system as well. She wouldn't wear hers either. So people, please, if you're to the point where you're a little bit older and you have a life alert system, you have to wear it if you want help immediately. Okay, so I'm going to get back into my story. My mother is 88 years old. She turned 88 on March the 4th of this year. We didn't know what was going on with my mother for quite some time. I used to talk to her every single day on the phone. Now, Alzheimer's affects the brain. It's a brain disorder. So it can happen, it's a trauma to the brain. It could happen from maybe a car accident or maybe a really hard blow to the head, or it could be the effect of a stroke. Well, I was talking to my mother one day, and she said, I had an eye stroke. And I said, well, Mother, what is that? I've never heard of an eye stroke. She said, it's just an eye stroke. I said, well, did you have like a regular stroke? She said, no, it's just an eye stroke. I said, well, I don't understand that. What did the doctor tell you to do? She said, well, he wants me to take these eye drops, and then if they don't work, then I'll have to have surgery. I said, well, stay on top of it, and we've got to do what we've got to do. But my mother didn't tell me the truth. I found out after the fact that she had a major stroke, but it didn't affect her like it does most people. She did not have any slurred speech. Her face was not twisted in any kind of way. If you were to see her, she just looked okay. She didn't look like she had been sick, nothing. She looked normal. But what happened, about a year after this, she refused to have the surgery like her doctor told her, because he warned her that if she did not have the surgery, that she would end up with dementia. My mother has a very aggressive character, and she was very angry. She told the doctor, well, that's never happened to me before. I didn't have to have this, I didn't have to have that, and I'm not having the surgery now. And what are you trying to tell me? I'm crazy or something? Just forget it. She refused the surgery. A year later, she came to visit me, and we had gone out to dinner at a buffet with my grandbaby. And so we were just having a good time, enjoying dinner, and she decided, finally, she said, well, I think I'd like to have some ice cream. I said, okay. So she got up to get the dessert, and I noticed that she was missing for quite a while, but I didn't think too much about it because there was a lot of different dishes there for her to choose from. So when she came back, she said, well, did you guys miss me? Did you think I was gone a while? I said, well, yeah, as a matter of fact, I did. I said, what happened? Did you have to stop and maybe go to the bathroom or something? She said, no. She said, I just couldn't remember where we were sitting. And my grandbaby was young. He thought it was kind of funny. I didn't say anything, but it was really a big concern to me. But when we got home, she seemed to be okay. So I didn't think too much about it. But shortly when she went back home, she had a conference that she was doing with some other people, and she had to go to a hotel to register everybody. But prior to getting to the hotel, she had gone downtown to pay a bill. When she came out of the business, she told us that someone had wrecked her car. The whole front end was damaged. So she went to the hotel, but she was a little bit not with it. And so when she got there, some of my friends saw her and they said, well, are you okay? And they said, we don't think that, that you're right here. So we're going to just go back with you and make sure that you get to your car and you need to go home. That's when they noticed that the car was damaged, and they called me and they said that she said someone hit the car. But we believe that she hit something. Thankfully, I don't think she hit another vehicle, but she either hit a building or a pole or something. Also, she did not hurt herself, which was a good thing. But like I said, my mother has a very aggressive character, and the way that this business was, it was a converted house that was near the street. So if someone had hit her car, someone would have heard the crash. And even if they didn't, when my mother had gotten back out there and she had seen the damage that was done to her car, she would have come unglued and would have called the police or something to find out what had happened. She didn't do that. So my brother and his wife lived across the street, and I said, maybe you better kind of watch her, and maybe she shouldn't be driving too much. And they said, well, we watch her, and, we look out the window. If her car is not there, we give her about 30 minutes, and if it's not back, then we go out and look for her. I said, 30 minutes? Do you realize how much damage and how much trouble she can get into in 30 minutes? Well, they let her do her thing, so to speak, for a while. And then one day, she was seen driving on the wrong side of the street down a major street. And in our little hometown, it's a small town, but the major street that runs through is called Broadway Avenue. It is basically US Highway 50. So it's a busy highway. My mother was driving on the wrong side of the street. So people had seen her. Of course, she was causing a little bit of confusion out there for the drivers. And so they got her license number, which was pretty simple because she had a personalized tag on her car. They called the police, they ran the plate, and they went to her home. And when they talked to her, they realized that she should not have been driving. And so they suspended her license, which again made her very, very angry. And because I was in law enforcement, she took out this aggression on me because she thought that I had called the police where she lived and told them that she shouldn't be driving. Well, I wasn't even aware of what was going on. And when she called me, she kind of blessed me out a little bit. I said, well, Mother, they saw you driving on the wrong side of the street. Well, her response was, well, maybe they were driving on the wrong side of the street. I said, okay, that's it. And so I didn't know that the police at that time had suspended her license, but I told my brother, hide the keys, take them away. She is not to drive ever again. So she was really angry with that because she felt like we were taking away her independence. Well, she's had dementia now for about 4 or 5 years. And with her, it seems to be worse because it's happened so quickly and it's progressing so very quickly, even more so than her siblings and her mother. So recently, after her birthday, she didn't look right. So my brother and his wife decided, well, she probably has the flu, so we better get her to the hospital. They called an ambulance, and even though she was weak, she walked to the ambulance without the help of a cane or a walker. She was in the hospital for approximately 10 days. The flu did clear up, but she ended up with pneumonia. The doctor released her, and I was very concerned about that because normally doctors don't release people with pneumonia, much less a lady that's 88 years old who also suffers from COPD as well as asthma. So my brother brought her home because by now he had moved in with her because we realized that she could no longer live alone. One of the things she used to do that made us come to that decision was that she would go into the kitchen, open the drawer, and lift out the tray with her silver in it, and she would take it into the bedroom, put it underneath her pillow, keep it there, and then she would sleep at the foot of the bed. So she was constantly doing little odd things like that. She would put glasses or any type of glassware in the washing machine. So when my brother was ready to do the laundry, he always had to be very careful to make sure that there was that there was not anything else in there beside clothing. She might put her clothes in the freezer or in the refrigerator. You just never knew where you were going to find something. She even went through the house and found flowers, artificial flowers that had been in vases. She took all of them out, somehow got up on the walls and just pinned them, tacked them up there. My mother's a short lady, little woman. I don't know how she got up there to do that. And then she would also go to different rooms of the house, and she somehow would drag heavy furniture all through the house until she got it right into the middle of the living room floor. So the house was in chaos. And my mother was always a particular neat person, everything in its place. So we knew something wasn't right, and that's why my brother moved in with her. So anyway, back to the story. When he got her home, he realized that she could no longer walk. And we were kind of concerned about that because we couldn't understand why she could walk into the hospital and then 10 days later she couldn't walk at all. You know, the doctor never contacted the family at all. He never made himself available to them, and he just had a very nonchalant attitude about the whole situation. So when they told me what had happened, you know, they said, well, maybe, you know, when you can, you better get here and see her. You know, we suggest sooner than later. So toward the end of the month, I said, well, you know, I better get out of here and go check on my mom. So I was in Alabama. I was somewhere around St. Louis when I got a call from my sister-in-law, and she said, Ma's not looking well. You know, we just decided we better take her back to the hospital. So meet us at the hospital. I said, all right, I'm about 3 hours away. I'll be there very soon. So when I got to the hospital, I was not prepared for what I saw. My mother was very frail, under 80 pounds, and her whole facial appearance was sunken in. You know, she just had the appearance of a skeleton. And because I worked in law enforcement and I was in forensics, I saw a lot of that. But I wasn't prepared to see that in my mother. So that really, really disturbed me, and it just didn't look like she was going to survive very long. So once they got her situated into a room, she was a little nervous. She recognized me, but she thought that I was my brother's daughter, and my brother is younger than I am, but that's okay. She couldn't remember my name, but she knew I was in the family somewhere. So I wanted to give my brother and his wife a little bit of a break, so I stayed in the hospital with her round the clock, day and night. She was only there for a couple of days, but the staff there did not seem to be that interested in her because she was old, I felt. And so when my brother wasn't there, or my sister-in-law, some of the staff kind of ambushed me. That's my term for it. And they started asking me questions that I didn't think were really appropriate, especially to ask me alone. You know, they wanted to know if the family had prepared for end of life for her and possibly even hospice. And they said that hospice was very expensive. And they just asked me all these questions that I wasn't ready for, and I wasn't ready to even answer them. And I told them, you know, there are three of us, and we have to, all three of us together, discuss this. I can't give you any kind of information. So when my brother and his wife got there, you know, I requested to see the director of nursing, and she again repeated herself, and the term that they kept referring was my mother was in the situation of failure to thrive. And they said this was her way of letting us know that she did not want to be a burden to us. And while she was in the hospital, you know, she refused to eat, she refused to drink anything. And so while I was there, I was able to get maybe 2 teaspoons of liquid to her in a spoon because she couldn't feed herself. Of course, she was incontinent, and she didn't know how to use a straw. So she was just failing. She was just leaving us. And so when the staff and the counselors were telling us all this stuff, we just thought, well, you know, how much time does she have left? And I guess because of HIPAA laws, or maybe they were afraid of us suing them, you know, they wouldn't give us any positive answers. You know, oh, we don't know, we can't answer that, we don't know. So when she was finally released, she was taken to a nursing facility. My sister-in-law went home and started making funeral arrangements, and I went home and started making out her obituary because we didn't think she had more than a couple of days. I was afraid to leave for fear that once I got back to Alabama, I was going to get a call in the middle of the night and I was going to have to go back home. So I just decided to stay as long as I had to. But fortunately, when we got her into the nursing home, I found out later that the doctors there took her off of a medication. I don't remember which one it was, but when they took her off of it, she started coming around a little bit. Slowly, but she started coming around. And I noticed by me being out there every day that eventually she was able to start feeding herself. She even could drink from a straw. And as a matter of fact, she even gained a couple of pounds. Now, we never could get her to walk again. You know, I don't know why, because I really felt at one time that she could, because they would take her to therapy and they stood her up and they would tell her, okay, now take a step. She wouldn't do it. They said, all right, kick the ball. She kicked the ball. I think she was mad at the therapist, and I think she was trying to kick him. And then I think it dawned on her, oh, I'm not supposed to do that. And so she wouldn't kick the ball again. And then when they would ask her to walk to them, she took a step backward. So I really felt that she could walk. But because of her mind and the dementia, her mind was telling her that she couldn't. So to this day, she cannot walk, and they don't do physical therapy like that anymore, because I doubt now that she really could, even if she wanted to. But by being in the nursing home, I found out that she was starting to thrive. Like I said, dementia is fatal. There is no cure for it, but she's doing better. At least she's stable, and she was stable enough that I felt that it was okay for me to leave. But prior to leaving, I had contacted her primary care physician, who is about to retire, and that's why this lady was not in the hospital with her in the first place. But the doctor said that a lot of times family members don't want to put their loved ones into a nursing home for whatever reason. But she said that in this situation, it was good, because even though we were doing the best that we could for her at home, there was only one or two people there with her. But being in a nursing facility with other people, she was able to communicate, or at least have some kind of social contact with people. Although her conversation isn't very sensible, and she makes up words, but she's around people, and that seemed to have given her some kind of a rejuvenation for her to be around people that she can talk to. So in closing this segment, I just want people to know that Alzheimer's disease is genetic or hereditary. So that scares me a lot. I do remember when I was a child, my mother used to always have us pray, and she used to pray the same prayer over and over. And as a kid, we would get so sick and tired of it. But she would always say, Lord, thank you for having us robed in our right minds. And we were like, what does that even mean, robed in our right minds? Well, now I fully understand what that is, because without your mind, you really can't do anything. But I want you to know that even though if you're at risk for Alzheimer's disease, just because it's genetic, it doesn't mean that everybody will get it. It's just like cancer. It might be genetic, but that doesn't mean that you will get it. But there are some things that you can do to help yourself with that. You can exercise. You can eat better. You need to get out and socialize with your friends and with your family. Learn a new language. Learn to play an instrument. Just do things, work a puzzle, do things to keep your mind going all the time, so that you don't lose that ability to deal with people, because that seems to be a really, really big problem with people with dementia. They kind of sink into a thing where they become antisociable. And I do believe that's what happened with my mother and with the rest of her family members. They just didn't really want to be around people, and that's not a good thing. So if you have dementia, or if you're at risk, just check with your doctor. Try to do some things that you can do to help yourself and to help your family. And please, 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 if you have a life alert or some type of a system, please wear it, so that if something happens, you can get help immediately. Okay, I've talked about my mom and her disease. We're going to try to redirect that stress a little bit. When my mother was younger and when I lived in the same city with her, we used to run a vacation Bible school. We didn't have a lot of money. We had a small church, so we had to come up with projects that were easy and that were economical. So after the break, I'm going to show you one of the crafts that we used to do at Vacation Bible School, and I think you might like it. And it's probably items that you have in your home that you can just pick up and use, and you won't have to spend a lot of money. So we'll be right back in just a moment, okay? Okay, everybody, we're back. Now we're going to do some fun stuff. I told you that my mother and I used to do crafts for Vacation Bible School. So what we're going to do today is a bottle craft. This is just a plain little bottle, a little pop bottle, or any kind of bottle that you have. You can even use a plastic water bottle. You might just have to weight it down a little bit though once you're ready to use it. You just need some regular school glue and just some yarn. Yellow is my mother's favorite color, so that's why I'm using yellow today. Or you can use rope or twine, anything like that. All you need to do is just apply a little glue to your bottle. You can start at the top or the bottom. I use my finger because it's just easier to get it even all the way around without it dripping all over everything. But put something on your surface so that you don't mess it up, just in case the glue does tend to drip a little bit. Just start anywhere on your bottle. The glue really holds it on pretty good. And you just wrap the yarn around. You know, you might have to adjust it a little bit as you go. But see what I'm doing here? You just wrap it. If you get real good with it, you can just twist the bottle while you're applying the yarn. But that takes a little bit of skill that I'm not really experiencing here. But you kind of get what I'm talking about. So just keep wrapping, 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 just like that. And then you're finished. Now, if you want to get fancy with it, here's a finished bottle. All I did, because it was a little bit not so good looking on the top, just get some embellishments that you can get at your local dollar store or at your craft store. These are like a little pick, Christmas pick that you can buy at your local store after Christmas. You can get a dynamite sale and just some little trinkets. And there you have your vase. Now, if you want to get real fancy, like I did this past Christmas, get bigger bottles. I used just plain old spray paint. I took it outside, spray painted the bottle. I put glue, same kind of glue, at the bottom of the bottle, and then I shook glitter on it. This is blue. Looks kind of nice, I think. And then get your little ornaments, your little picks, and there you have a really nice table setting for Christmas. So that's my quick tip. You know, you're only limited by your imagination. Okay, see you in a moment. Hi, we're back with Just So You Know. The home that I live in is a nice house, but you know, my biggest problem in that house is very little closet space, especially for my blankets, my sheets. You know, when it's time to do the laundry, you know, I have to search. Okay, I've got a pillowcase here, a sheet over there, another sheet someplace else. It's just a big, hot mess. So I'm going to give you a quick tip. Now, my husband and I have a big king bed, so I'm using one of my king pillowcases. Take your pillowcase, lay it out, get your fitted sheet and your folded sheet, fold them, you know, as best as you can, as neatly as you can. Open up your pillowcase, slip those sheets in there, and your other pillowcase as well. Now they're all together. All you have to do now is fold it up. Of course, it's going to be a little bulky, but you fold it up, put it into your closet. When it's time for the laundry and you're washing your sheets, you go in your closet, bingo, you have everything right there together and you don't have to look all over the place. So that's my tip for today. I want to thank you for joining me today, and I hope that what I've talked to you about will be of help for you. So until next time, bye-bye, I love you.